Hello, and welcome to the Freddie Mac Connect Making Seamless Servicing Transfers Possible session. Audience members are in listen-only mode. This session is being recorded and will be available following the conference. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A icon or box at the bottom of your screen. If you have any technical issues, please use the Q&A box as well, and someone will assist you. Lastly, you'll find icons at the bottoms of the screen where you will find links to speaker bios in the presentation deck. With that, I will turn it over to our panel moderator, Servicing Policy Business Lead, Single Family Portfolio and Servicing, John Emmons. John, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Imani. Despite challenges in the current market, we continue to see a significant volume of servicing transfers each month as servicers look to right-size their portfolios. When transfers go wrong, deadlines are missed, borrowers are impacted, and costs go up. To help servicers streamline their servicing transfer operations, Freddie Mac has been supporting the industry-led and MISMO-sponsored initiative to create the Servicing Transfer Dataset. Today, I am joined by a number of industry experts who have been actively participating in the MISMO Transfers and Limit Working Group. Joey Prince, Senior Vice President of Operations at NewRez ShellPoint and is chair of the working group. Rachel McCauley, the Director of Client Administration at Flagstar Bank and the co-chair of the working group. And Adam Elarusi, Senior Policy Analyst at the Federal Housing Finance Agency. And Adam has also been an active member of the working group. In today's session, we'll cover why it makes sense to create a servicing transfers data set from a regulatory perspective, and then we'll review recent accomplishments the Servicing Transfers Working Group has made and preview the work that lies ahead and how servicers and industry stakeholders can contribute. At the end, we'll save a few minutes for questions. So let's jump right in, and I'll ask Adam to provide what is top of mind from a regulatory perspective. Adam?
Thanks, John, and hi, everyone. My name is Adam Elarusi. I'm a Senior Policy Analyst in the Division of Housing Mission and Goals at FHFA, focused on servicing policy. Appreciate the invite to speak today. So first and foremost, FHFA's interest in this project is to reduce any adverse borrower impacts that may occur during a servicing transfer. We at FHFA access the CFPB's complaint data through a program called the Borrower Protection Program that was established in April of 2020. That program creates a framework for data sharing between CFPB and FHFA. And what we observe from the complaint data is that a large share of loss mitigation complaints that come in cite a recent servicing transfer. And I also know that improving the transfer of loss mitigation data was one of the focus areas that was identified at the industry workshop back in May. Over and above reducing borrower harm, we think there are efficiencies to be gained and an alignment of interests that would occur with a standardized data set, including but not limited to, first, a reduction of costs involved with transfers. Second, a standardized data set would presumably allow for more parties to participate in MSR sales, improving sales execution. And third, a third benefit is a stronger chain of custody leading to improved compliance with regulations. How we move to a standardized data set will require industry recognition of these benefits and the network effect of a critical mass of servicers adopting the standards into their transfer process. That's why we're a champion of these efforts and would encourage as many servicers as possible to participate in the work group so that we have a cross-section that's representative of the industry based on servicer size, a mix of banks and non-banks, and other different servicing business models, along with the vendors, technology providers, mortgage insurers, and others involved in the transfer process. With that, I'll hand it back over to John.
Thanks, Adam. Joey, recently MISMO published the Servicing Transfer Catalog. Can you walk us through what's contained in the catalog and how it can help servicers optimize their servicing transfer operations?
Thanks, John. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today, and I know John and Adam both referenced a data set, which is what MISMO, the MISMO working group, was created for. And this initiative kind of goes back to 2019, where FHFA hosted a roundtable at Freddie Mac with a lot of the major servicers, with the understanding that FHFA was trying to drive down costs, as Adam mentioned, for servicing transfers. And so they said, hey, if we had a data set, it would provide all of the benefits that Adam had mentioned before. But as the servicers got together, what we realized was, while a data set is super important, the how we communicate, the timing, and all of the delivery mechanisms for transfers, for transfer data, as well as images, was critically important to the success of a servicing transfer. So in 2020, when we set up the MISMO working group, the first thing that the group came together was to try to put together a catalog that pretty much walks through the timelines and the deliverables related to a servicing transfer. As you can see on slide 7, the first thing we're looking at is kind of delivery timing. So making sure that we're getting the data in the time that can accomplish all of the goals related to servicing transfer. And then business to business contact. One of the bigger items early on was making sure that we establish a framework of communication between all of the servicers, because usually in a servicing transfer, there's constant communication that's needed in order to, whether it's trace down problems, issues, resolve those problems. So establishing a good continuous contact between business to business servicers. And then the last piece is reconciliation, making sure that we're reconciling what the prior servicer is sending the new servicer, because even if we have a standardized data set, not knowing what they think they're releasing and what we're loading may or may not, meet the goals that FHFA and Freddie were also after. So on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about the actual catalog that we put together for a servicing transfer. The idea behind the servicing transfer instructions in general was to provide a playbook for servicers and going through it. So the implementation guide is the how and why of the catalog. When do you use it? How do you use it? And explain to a new servicer that's just coming into the industry how to perform a servicing transfer and how to do it seamlessly. Servicing transfer instructions are the driving document for a transfer in total. It's going to tell the prior servicer how to pay taxes, when to pay taxes, who is their contact information, how do I reach out to them, how quickly they're going to transfer payments, and the timing of transferring payments. And it also talks a little bit about images, which can be far more important in some situations than the data itself. And so establishing the STIs between servicers is going to, drive a more seamless transfer. The other document that we kind of pulled together is portfolio characteristics. This is a visual snapshot of the metrics within the portfolio. It's going to tell you how many ARM loans do I have, how many mortgage insurance loans do we have, and what the idea behind the portfolio characteristics is. Even in the final, when we have a data set and we receive the data from the prior servicer, if you're missing things like I have no ARM data in the file, is that because of a servicing issue, or is it because there just aren't any ARM loans in the file? So having portfolio characteristics to kind of back up the data that's received, again, allows for new servicers to be more comfortable with what they're loading and what's being transferred. Image transfer schedule. I mentioned images earlier. Things like loss mitigation for outstanding modifications or anybody that's needing an evaluation for loss mitigation. Images are critical to a transfer, and especially the in-flight process and evaluation. So establishing the timelines and guidelines for when do you deliver images, What are the formats? Is it a disk? Is it FTP? All of those things are critical to the success of the transfer. The next document, required reporting. This is similar to portfolio characteristics, just gives you more details about the transfers, not necessarily the data, but it's the system generated reports that exist and are transferred between servicers to allow you to do deep dives or recognize any gaps when you get questions from homeowners or borrowers post transfer. And then I talked a little bit about it on the previous slide, but reconciliation and balancing is probably the most critical piece to understanding. The goal of the new servicer initially is to board what the prior servicer sent us, and ensuring that when they think they released 100 loans and we boarded 100 loans, or they released $10 million in UPB and we boarded $10 million in UPB, doing those tie outs are critical to set up the new servicer for success and to continue the servicing of those loans exactly as they were with the prior servicer. Slide 9 is also, this is a sample transfer timeline that we kind of give everyone an idea of how to utilize and when to utilize the documents in the catalog that we produced, right? So you can see you have initial kickoffs. A lot of times you have multiple trials, especially in a transfer of decent size. So trial 1, roughly 60 days out. Trial 2, roughly 30 days out. Your goodbye letters. And then obviously after cutoff, you have welcome letters from the new servicer. And that's when you also do your reconciliations, right? This is where I'm tying out what I have from the prior servicer and what I boarded, and how our catalog that we've kind of created and has been, released to the public will also guide people step by step from that external kickoff all the way through the post-transfer reconciliations. And I know Rachel is going to talk a little bit about our, the future of the team and the work group and some data needs. But if you, the documents are available at MISMO, and we kind of encourage, all servicers to take a look, incorporate those into their transfer process. John?
Thanks, Joey. I really appreciate the insight on the catalog. And completion of the search and transfer catalog marked a completion of the most recent phase of the initiative. But as Joey alluded to, there's still a lot more work to do. I'd like to ask Rachel to come in and talk about what the working group has teed up next and how servicers and others in the industry can contribute to this effort. Rachel?
Thank you, John, and thanks, Joey. So as Joey mentioned, the work around the transfer catalog was really to make sure that we were all aligned and speaking the same language. The next step really is the servicing data, and to ensure that we are all aligned further on where we are with boarding loan data. There was some efforts years ago to map out all of the transfer related data. And we certainly are going to be looking at that as we go forward. But what we found is that the industry has evolved and the data needs have evolved as well. So we really have set a roadmap to identify some key pain points that Adam alluded to, as well as some areas where we think that there is a lot of value going forward to standardize. And we look forward to the industry adopting those. As you can see on the next slide, we certainly are able to go forward and identify all of the transfer related data. And really what the work is now is in engaging with the industry, as Adam and John mentioned, and having all of you come to the table to join us to help define the data, give input on how we implement the data, get providers also to the table to help us standardize formats and layouts. So that's really how you can get involved in where we need you. It's really important that we take some loan boarding checklists as well as standard data layouts. So if that's something that you have, we want to see it. And of course, you can participate in the biweekly data working group. We would love to see you there. And with that, I'll hand it back to John.
Thank you, Rachel. And if you have any of those loan checklists that you would like to contribute, you can contribute to them through the MISMO website. And through there, you can find the Connect platform on MISMO, and through the Connect platform, you can find the Certainty Transfer Development Working Group, and there'll be instructions on how to contribute there. So with that, I wanted to thank everyone, all the panelists, for their time and their insight. And if you have any questions, please add them to the Q&A box. And just looking through the box, I see we have a few questions. First one, I think it would be over to you, Adam. Could you please elaborate on when you spoke of better sales execution and how the standardized data set would facilitate that?
Sure. So, we sometimes see seller servicers accepting lower pricing if they anticipate there will be a smoother transition or transfer with a particular bidder. So by creating a standardized data set, we hope that, would increase the pool of bidders and help seller servicers achieve better pricing on those sales.
Thanks, Adam. Next one I think is maybe for Rachel. You mentioned there was work done several years ago by MISMO to identify and standardize transfer data. Will you be using that as a basis for the next phase?
John, we certainly will be referencing that. There was a lot of effort and hard work put in within the industry to define those data points and standardize them. However, as I mentioned, there's a lot of work and a lot of evolution within the industry. So we'll be leveraging that in addition to templates and other data definitions throughout MISMO as well as the industry. And then we're also going to focus on, with those data points, best practices and, of course, layouts like the ULDD.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Rachel. See a couple more questions here. I think this one, Joey, is probably best to send over to you. You mentioned the Servicing Transfer Catalog that the DWG created contains portfolio characteristics, but does it include information for special loan products like HELOCs or reverse mortgages?
Thanks, John. It's a really good question. The group as a whole, as we spent a couple of years putting the catalog together, focused a lot on scope and what to include, what not to include. We know that there are many different servicers out there and have many different product types. So some of that is in the portfolio characteristics or in the STIs as a whole, but we also understand and expect that each servicer is going to take the catalog and use it as it best fits their organization. So for example, if all we have are reverse mortgages, we would expect that many of them will take the bones of the STI and make sure that they're creating the communication and collaboration portions that we to connect the two services together, but also understanding that it is different for each of us and how we utilize it. So the answer is partially. We included a lot of special loan or special product information in both portfolio characteristics and the servicing transfer instructions, but we also expect and would hope that people will adapt it to meet their needs and use the framework that we've provided to, continue to push, transfer processes forward.
Thanks for that, Joy. And one more question that we have here. I think it's probably for you, Rachel. What will be the first areas that you focus on as you begin to create the standardized servicing data set?
That's a great question, John. So certainly there are plenty of areas where servicers are looking for more standards. We did meet in May with a large number of industry players, as well as Adam and yourself and others joining us, and providers, and identified many areas to focus on. Where we landed to start was we realized that most servicers are boarding from the ULDD and then supplementing data. So we thought we would start there, as well as trying to standardize ACH transfers, the data components, as well as potentially, standards around what was communicated in the working sessions between teams. So those are really the first out of the gate areas of focus. But as Adam mentioned, certainly we will be touching default and other areas as we progress.
All right, thanks, Rachel. And I'm not seeing any other questions in the box. So, Imani, I think I'll turn it back over to you.
Absolutely. So that looks like all the questions that we have for today. If we missed your question, we will reach out to you following the conference. Your opinion is important to us. Please take a few moments to take our brief survey so that we can continue to bring you timely and relevant content. This presentation deck will be sent to you following the session. You can also log in anytime after the conference to play back this or any other session. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference.